Hello everyone, welcome to Lockdown CISO. Today we talk about Thomas Jefferson and Alexander Hamilton, the two important figures in the birth of America. Thomas Jefferson is the major author of the U.S. Declaration of Independence. He is the first U.S. State Secretary, the second Vice President, and the third U.S. President, and also the creator of the U.S. Democratic Republican Party. He opposed to slavery, yet without freeing his own slaves, and even his slave mistress Sally Hemings bore him 7 children. Alexander Hamilton was a captain of artillery during American Independence War, very brave, and he was soon recommended to General Washington as an aide-de-camp. He took the office of Treasury Secretary after the war and created American Bank. And he was the key leader of early American Federalists. Later, his affair with Maria Reynolds was exposed to the public, and with his reputation smeared, in July 1804, at the age of 49, he was fatally injured and died in a duel with former U.S. Vice President Aaron Burr. Both Jefferson and Hamilton were engaged in American independence, and both were selected into the first cabinet of President Washington. Yet they were often at odds due to their different personalities and visions. Jefferson preferred the farmland and economy and protection of state power and individual freedom, and prevention of overdue federal authority. Hamilton emphasized on the development of industry and commerce, enhancement of federal power, taxation and finance, keeping strong defense and national interests. The conflicts between Jefferson and Hamilton opened the first American party clashes, and the mutual slanders and attacks between Democratic Republicans and the Federalists were nothing different from today's confrontation between the Democrats and the Republicans. Then there are different family backgrounds of Jefferson and Hamilton. In April 1743, Jefferson was born in a family of a plantation owner in Virginia. His father was Peter Jefferson. His mother was Jane, and they owned 1,400 acres of land and a dozen slaves. The wealthy family made him well educated in learning Latin, Greek, and French. He was also a good player of violin. At the age of 9 years old, he left home and attended a boarding school. Then 5 years later, his father passed away. In 1760, when he was 17, he enrolled into college and hoped to be a lawyer, and even entered the House of Burgesses. At the age of 21, he inherited his family's fortune with 5,000 acres of land and hundreds of slaves. And Jefferson began his career as a lawyer at the age of 24. And 2 years later, in 1769, he was elected into Virginia Parliament. Soon after, he met the 22-year-old widow, just Martha Willis, and they got married at the new year of 1772. Hamilton was born in British West Indies in January 1755, and 12 years younger than Jefferson. His father was James Hamilton, Scottish, who took adventures for business, yet failed. In 1766, he left home and abandoned the 11-year-old Hamilton. Hamilton's mother was Rachel, who had experienced an unsuccessful marriage before and then lived with James. So Hamilton was actually an illegitimate child. His mother opened a general store and lived austerely, but not impoverished. In 1768, his mother died of sickness at the age of 38, and then the 13-year-old Hamilton became an orphan. The homeless boy found a job in a local trade company as a clerk, and he was diligent and intelligent, and a very good hand at work. After 5 years in 1775, when he was 17 years old, he got assistance from a local church and studied in America. And 1 year later enrolled in King's College in New York, the predecessor of today's University of Columbia. And since then, the star-crossed Hamilton began to change his fate. The beginning of American Independence War. In April 1775, its American colonists began their revolution against the British and established the Continental Army with Washington as the commander. Both Jefferson and Hamilton published the pamphlet against the British tyranny. In 1776, when Jefferson was 33, he attended the Continental Congress in Philadelphia and was recommended by Adams to draft the Declaration of Independence and made the well-known statement, "All men are created equal and endowed with the inalienable rights, life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness." Adams later became vice president of Washington. He was elected as the second U.S. president in 1796 and got lost to Jefferson in 1800. Meanwhile, when the war broke out, Hamilton left school and joined Washington's Continental Army. After the Continental Congress in 1776, Jefferson returned to Virginia and refused the foreign mission to go to France with Franklin with the excuse of taking care of his wife. In the following 3 years from 1776 to 1779, Washington and the Continental Army fought fiercely with the British Army at New York, Boston, Pennsylvania. Lack of necessities and supplies suffered tremendously sacrifices. Yet Jefferson mostly stayed at his estate. Monticello enjoyed his later time of retirement and refurbishing of his mansion. Then Jefferson took office of Virginia governor for 2 years without sufficient preparation for the war. And during the 3 British raids to Virginia, he frustrated and fled, almost being captured by British cavalry. This embarrassment made him attacked by the future Federalists and Hamilton. When the war began, Hamilton initially took 10 months military training with the local militia, and soon was appointed as captain of a volunteer artillery company. He behaved very brave on the battlefield and fought against the British attacks with batteries for covering U.S. Army operation. And he was always one of the last to withdraw. At his age of 21, Hamilton was not very tall, about 5.7 feet and a little bit thin, yet his eyes were full of enthusiasm and impressed people around him with confidence, gallantry, quick-wit, intelligence, and spirit of adventure and aspiration for success. Several months later, that's Colonel Henry Knox, the first U.S. Secretary of War after independence, recommended Hamilton to Washington as his aide-de-camp, and immediately promoted to be lieutenant colonel at the age of 22. In the following 5 years, he asked Washington for many times to fight with the field troops, and was finally approved in October 1781 in the Battle of Besiege at Yorktown. He organized and led the Texas forces to take over British positions and achieved great success. The American victory at Yorktown symbolized the final triumph of the Independence War. After the war, Jefferson resigned governorship and returned to his state. Hamilton left the army, returned to New York, hoping to be a lawyer. In July 1784, Jefferson was assigned to go to France to replace John Joy, joining the trade negotiation together with Benjamin Franklin and John Adams. In 1785, the almost 80-year-old Franklin came back to America, and Jefferson became U.S. ambassador to France, and Adams as U.S. ambassador to Britain. Jefferson had kept a very good friendship with Adams and his wife Abigail for a long time. Yet in 1800 U.S. presidential election, Their intimacy finally broke due to their different political views and mutual attacks between the two parties. In 1789, Washington was elected as the first U.S. president, with Jefferson was appointed as state secretary and Hamilton as the Treasury Secretary. Jefferson insisted on limiting federal administration, maintaining state power and personal freedom, developing America as a self-reliance, agrarian confederation. Hamilton advocated concentration of central authority in taxation, finance, and strong army, turned America to be a country of industry and business. The French Revolution in 1789 also greatly impacted America. Jefferson was in favor of a French idea of revolution, freedom and equality of citizenship done with the aristocracy, continuation of U.S.-France alliance. Hamilton disagreed with French radical violence, disorder without rule of law. He suggested America's neutrality in French war with other European countries. Jefferson's idea developed to be the Democratic Republican Party, and the vision of Hamilton created the Federalists, which loomed the butt of U.S. two-party system. In 1800, Jefferson won the presidential election. In his inauguration, he said, Americans were Democratic Republicans and also Federalists. In 1803, Jefferson reached an agreement with France about Louisiana Purchase, with America's territory expanded to the west for over 2 million square kilometers, greatly enhanced the federal power. Jefferson, as a Democratic Republican, accomplished the blueprint of the Federalists, like Hamilton, with the interests of the two parties merged together. Both Jefferson and Adams died on the same day of July 1st, 1826, the 50th anniversary of American Declaration of Independence, as if they are coming and go and closely destined with the fate of U.S. independence. The younger Hamilton died in 1804 in a duel of political clash, 22 years earlier than their departure. Jefferson and Hamilton, the two key figures, American forefathers, their conflict on different ideology and alternative epitomized the history of U.S. politics and the struggle of its two-party system. Here comes the end of today's program, and thank you for your watching, and see you next time. Thank you, bye.